From the Gospel of Luke, 14th chapter, beginning with verse 25. We're reading from the New King James Version. I think that's the one you have in the pews. So if you would like to find that and read along, I invite you to do. Now great multitudes went with him, and he turned and said to them, If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Or which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king, going to make war against another king, does not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks conditions of peace. So, likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. May the Lord add his blessing to the reading and to the hearing of this word. This text today confronts me with the question of who am I? It was further illustrated to me or brought home to me. Judy and I were fortunate to travel to the Holy Land several years ago, and we're walking in the Armenian section of Jerusalem. And we encounter a young woman there, and I asked my guide, or our tour guide, if she was Armenian because of the way she was dressed. And my tour guide said no. She is married and religious. You could tell that by the way she was dressed. So I asked myself the question, can people tell if I'm religious? Can they tell if I'm married? Can they tell if I am a disciple? That question haunts me. It haunts me because I read this text. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. He is on his way for that last time. The cross is before him. He has already told his disciples what awaits him there. He will be arrested, crucified, dead, buried, and resurrected. But that's all in front of him. And as he is journeying toward Jerusalem, he is surrounded by a group of people, pilgrims, who are going to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. And it's a joyous time. They're happy, they're singing, they're playing games, or the children are playing games. Everybody's really light and just having a wonderful time. And Jesus has this burden on him, and he looks at them and says, Unless you hate family, you cannot be my disciple. Now, before we get too excited about the word hate, it is not the word that we use when we scream, I hate you. It has none of that emotion with it. In the Hebrew, hate has to do with love less or set aside. So what he's saying to this group of people, unless you make me first, you can't be my disciple. He's not telling us to forget all about our family, to forget all about our responsibilities to our family. When he's on the cross, he looks at John, if you remember in the Gospel of John, and he says, You see this woman? She's your mother now. So he is not telling us to forget our family. What he's telling us is, if we want to be a disciple of Jesus, we can't just slide him in. We got an empty slot. I don't have anything else to do that day, so I think I'll just slide Jesus in that slot. He'll fit right there, you know. There's a problem with Jesus. You may not have this problem, but I do. I want to put him in a place walking into the way I treat people. You know, we put him in a tomb. We got it. Sealed. Everything's good. He showed up again. He won't stay put. And so, we have a problem with that. We want to compartmentalize our lives. Yeah, I have this religious part, I have this work part, I have this part, I have this part, this part. And he says, no, there's just one part. One part. I am to be the head of all of this. If you want to be my disciple, he says, then you have to put me first. Then he tells two small parables. Jesus never gave us false information. He never misled us. He never told us everything's going to be okay if you follow me. He made sure we understood, and he gave us these two parables to make sure. The first is about a man who is going to build a tower, a farmer who is building a tower to guard his land. Because in that day and time you had problems with people who would come in at harvest time and steal your grapes or your wheat or your olives or whatever you were trying to raise. He's going to build this tower, but before he does, he sits down and he says to himself, do I have enough money? It's going to cost me this for the bricks, it's going to cost me this for labor, and it's going to cost me this to finish it all up. Do I have that money? And if he doesn't, he says, no, I can't build that tower. So Jesus is saying for us to sit down, count the cost. For discipleship has a cost with it. It's the ultimate cost. It costs us everything we have. And the second one is a king who is going to war. He has to sit down and decide if he can win with his small army against the great army that's coming against him. In this case, this is a life and death question. This is not a question about building the tower down. This is a life and death. If he goes to war and loses, he loses his life. And so what Jesus is telling us is that we need to count the cost. Are you willing to count the cost to be my disciple? And then he says, if we're not willing to give up everything, to be his disciple, we shouldn't try it. We shouldn't do it. I've always looked at this passage of giving up my financials, giving up my worldly goods. But as I looked at this passage this week, and as I studied this passage, it dawned on me, he's calling on me to give up some other things. Not just my financial stuff. It's not hard for me. Not a whole lot of it either. He's calling on me to give up my prejudice. He's calling on me to give my petty feelings about people, my feelings of injustice, and all those things that we treat people, that judgmentalness, all that kinds of stuff. He's calling on me to give up everything. Everything. Follow him. And then he says, you have to take your own cross. When we think of cross, we think of something that has been put on us. The cross is something you take up. Jesus had a choice. We find that out in the garden when he prays God. He had a choice to pick up that cross. He could have not done that, but it was the will of God for him to do that, and he came to do the will of God. You and I have a cross. It's not our wife or our husband, though I've been told that that's what it was. We have a cross. It is to do God's will. What is it? For me, it is preaching the gospel. I have a choice. I can lay it down. But I believe it is the will of God for me to do this. I thought so a long time ago, and I have not pick up that cross, he says, and follow Jesus. So we have to make a decision. Are we willing to give up things? Paul tells us that what we give up does not compare to what we have offered to us. We have the relationship of Jesus. We have the promise of tomorrow. We have a promise of a new kingdom. Paul says, what I give up is nowhere close to what I am giving. All of us make decisions every day about giving up things. You choose this job, you give up all these other jobs. Now sometimes you can choose this job, you go, wait, that's not the job I want, I can choose over here. But there's other choices that you make, you do not have those choices that you can change. You stand before a congregation or before a group of people, the two of you swear your love for each other in a marriage ceremony, forsaking all others and accepting only this one individual. We make all kinds of choices. So the question for me as I read this text and I thought about it, can I be a disciple? Can I really be a disciple? And it is a tough choice. And I realize I can't do it on my own. You remember the story or the parable that Jesus told about it's easier for a rich man to go through for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than a rich man is to get into heaven? And the disciples said, well, Lord, who can do this? Who can come in? And he says, with man it's impossible, but with God all things are possible. Being a disciple of Jesus is a grace thing. He has graced us. He has graced us into the kingdom. He has graced us into being a follower of Jesus, of Him. So the question comes down, not can I do this on my own? The question comes down, am I willing to accept His grace to be His disciples and answer His call? So who am I? I am one struggling to be a disciple, to be a follower of Jesus. Some days I do it really well, for at least 5 minutes. Other days, not so well. But the good news is, He understands, and He keeps calling me. He does not give up on me. He does not say, Dan, you fouled up this last time, I'm through with you. He never says that. He comes to me and says, take up your cross again. Follow me. You want to be a disciple? Count the cost. It is high, but it is worth every bit. Let us pray. Oh God, our Father, we're so grateful that you call us through your Son, Christ Jesus. And Father, give us the ability to hear, to answer, to strive, to be your disciples. In Jesus' name we make our prayer. Perhaps this morning God has spoken to you and is leading you to publicly profess Him as Savior and Lord. Michael will come down to the front in a moment and you can come down and talk to him about that decision, and he will lead you through what you need to do. Or perhaps this morning you have been thinking about making this your place of work and worship through moving your membership from some other place. I know it's during a transition time and it's hard to make that decision, but sometimes God lays that decision on us. And we realize, yes, even during the transition time, I want to be part of this place. So we give you opportunity to do that. Or perhaps this morning you just need to come down to the front and pray. In a little while, Lee will be giving you some information about the future of this church. And I trust that you have been praying for a long time. And perhaps this morning you just need to come down to the front and spend a few moments praying. Whatever the Lord leads you to do, won't you do it as we stand and sing?